TLC of amino acids. You're going to need to make your eluent, you're going to need to solvate your ninhydrin, and then you wait. Now I have a time-saving technique a little later on to show you, but this particular lab you're going to need, and now I have this big pipette that was provided to me. I have 6 pipettefuls of isopropyl alcohol. I'm then going to put in 2 pipettefuls of ammonia. So the ratio is 1 ammonia to 3 isopropyl alcohols. I use the pipette to stir my eluent around, and then I'm going to tape this pipette to my ammonia so that I can use it in a later lab. I'm going to cover this with parafilm so that I increase the vapor pressure, or retain the vapor pressure. So now I'm going to set up my TLC. Now make sure your lab surface, or your surface, whatever you're working on, is clean and dry. And I'm not setting up my TLC, I'm going to solvate my ninhydrin. You can also do this while your TLC is running. But be careful not to contaminate your acetone. Fill this bottle approximately 3/4 full. So I'm going to about where the top of my label is with acetone, and that's plenty. Again, clean and dry surface before you get out your TLC plates. I'm putting my solutions in an order that makes sense to me, and I'm looking to see how much is in there. I don't like that they cover up the entirety of the centrifuge tube with a label, but I understand they need to label it a certain way. So I'm going to take out my TLC plates, and I'm going to use 2. And I'm going to put the bottom down so that I can draw the origin line with my ruler. Again, with a pencil, you're going to need to draw a line approximately 1/2 centimeter or a centimeter above the bottom, and that's going to be your origin line. What I do is I take my ruler and I line up the bottom of my centimeter numbers with the bottom of my plate, and that makes a consistent origin line. I'm then going to end up making little hash marks approximately 1 centimeter apart, and that's where I'm going to put my spots. You do not want to crowd your spots. Don't put more than 4 spots on a plate. Well, it looks like this plate is 5 centimeters by 10 centimeters, so you don't want to put more than 4 spots on this kind of a plate. I then numbered each of those spaces, and then I had to prepare my capillary tubes. Now, as I mentioned in a previous lab, my capillary tubes were only open on one end, and here I'm showing you with a paper towel how I'm going to spot. I'm going to hold my capillary tube 90 degrees from my plate and then make a little wet spot, and that's spotting the TLC plate. Now use a clean capillary tube or a clean capillary end for each spot. I do not want to encourage you to handle broken glass. I had to break the capillary tubes in order to make this work. So a different capillary tube for each spot in order not to cross-contaminate. You should have one spot that resolves in each lane of your TLC plate until you get to the unknown. Your unknown is made up of 2 of your knowns. They are not random. They are just 2 of your knowns. So don't tell me your unknown is made up of something you don't have. You're then going to develop your plates. Now I put both plates in at the same time, and then what I did is I put my eluent down into a little container of hot water. That increased the vapor pressure to the point where I cut down my reaction time, or my TLC wait time, from an hour to 20 minutes. So that is a time-saving technique. Now I'm going to remove a plate. See, in ambient situation, this was after 10 minutes, and then after 20 minutes, it didn't climb too much further. I'm only up a little bit. And so after an hour, I still wasn't to within 1 centimeter of the top. So with that little trick of heating up your eluent with a hot water bath, you decrease your wait time dramatically. So now I'm going to remove one of my plates and mark my solvent front. You can actually remove them both if you've run them both at the same time. And you need to wait for these plates to dry before you spray your ninhydrin on them. So they do need to be dry before they are visualized. I'm going to remove the second plate, mark the solvent front, and then, because I am impatient, I actually took my hairdryer on the cool setting, held down my plates, and used the cool setting on them to try to get them to dry a little bit faster, because again, I am impatient. Now I put these plates, this is actually a storage container of some sort that I don't mind getting all gross with ninhydrin. So I put my plates into this storage container, and here I am just holding them down on the cool setting just to get the air moving around them to dry them off. It doesn't take very long, even with cool. You don't want to heat the plates until after the ninhydrin has been sprayed. Now, when you spray the ninhydrin, remember you are spraying an aerosol of acetone, and that can be an irritant to breathe it in. So you'll prime your pump. I primed it into a paper towel, but you can prime the pump into a sink all the same. Just remember that this does stain. So prime the pump into something and then spray about 6 times onto your plates. You do not want to have puddles. Here's the prime into the paper towel. You do not want to have puddles on your plate. You will end up with a spatter pattern and it will be difficult to read. So you want to make sure your ninhydrin was adequately solvated, and that's why we did it early so that the solids could dissolve. Now I'm going to put my hairdryer on hot and high, and I hold it down with a gloved hand, or I even use gloves with ninhydrin, and heat each plate. Now this takes real time. This takes about 30 seconds. Depending on the heat output of whatever it is you're using, whether you're using a heat gun or a hair dryer, this could take anywhere from 15 seconds to 2 minutes. I don't know how long it will take for you. You do not want to char your plates. You don't want to actually cook them. You want to heat up the ninhydrin on those spots so that they become visible. And here you'll start to see some pink occurring. These will continue to develop for a few minutes. You'll want to mark these spots fairly soon after you've heated up your plates, because it is possible that they will fade. So make sure you mark your spots. Some of them will look very similar, but remember, when you're measuring your RF, you go from the center of your spot to your origin line. Now also mark down the color of your spots. Some of them are more red, some of them are more pink. Write your name at the top of your TLC plate, and I'm going to want to see a picture with your ID and this plate with your name on it. Now I also want to point out, it's difficult to see on the video, but there is a yellow spot, and it's the one that's closest to, well, it's closest to the, I want to say the bottom. Write your name at the top. Take a picture with your ID.